In the past, there has not been a multi-year strategic plan that guided budget priorities or was directly linked to student outcomes. This means that each year, our community and schools face a zero-sum dynamic where access to limited resources are not made based on a long-term vision for our county schools, but rather based on a crisis framework that continues to happen annually. How are you, as a school board member, going to advocate for and help build out a multi-year strategic plan and budget that is open and accessible to our community and maintains an equity lens? And this one will go first to you, Mrs. Mosley-Jones.
Well, last September, when Dr. Johnson came in, that was the very first time that we had a board retreat in which we did begin a multi-year strategic plan. We started that process, and this year with the fiscal budget at 2018-2019, that budget matched that plan, and our budget shows that how the goals of our district, so we engage every child every day, the teacher, the best teachers, best leaders, all of that. It shows how the budget will reflect those priorities at a multi-year level. We were not able to do that this year because we were just getting started, but the goal has been put in place to do that every year. We've also looked at things such as zero-based budgeting. We've also looked at things such as student-based budgeting, which we know that if you do student-based budgeting, then the schools where there is a lack of equity will then begin to have a more level playing field, because you'll have to address the inequities at a greater rate and at a more intense rate than those schools that are not having those socioeconomic issues. So we're already doing those things, already in place for that. We are having a bit of a change in leadership because we're losing our chief financial officer, and we're losing our previous chief financial officer. There's one left and one is retiring. So we're going to have to get whoever's coming in on board with that, and those have to join in because that's what we've decided as a board to do. But those things are already in place. But I do agree that we have not always done that, but everything takes time. We're in a place now where we have a leader and we have a cabinet and we have a board where everybody understands the need to do that. We have a commission who now understands that. For the first time, we presented to the commission a balanced budget, actually with some income with revenue, actually. So they didn't have to send it back and ask us for a balanced budget. We sent them a budget where we didn't need any money for them, but we showed them what we were able to do, and we're actually being able to meet a lot of needs. We've changed some things, we've moved some things around, we've gotten rid of some positions. The retirement incentive brought in a mass level of income, and so we've been able to meet needs and find ways to do that with our own money without having to ask for any money, without having to get any bonds for anything. We're being able to improve facilities, to improve curriculum, and to offer greater opportunities to our children that will address the whole child, which will include the parent and the community and the child as well. So those things are in place, and my goal, if reelected or when reelected, will be to continue to push for those things, to ensure that as we push for those things, the fields for the children become more equitable, and they're able to get what they need to have the best education they deserve.
Thank you. Mrs. Pierre, how are you as a school board member going to advocate for and help build out a multi-year strategic plan and budget that is open and accessible to our community and maintains an equity lens?
One of my strong points working at the Tennessee Valley was the development of the budget. I was responsible for preparing the budget that went to Congress, and to then be able to take that budget and measure the outcomes as to whether the budget was being met in terms of providing electricity to the residents of Tennessee. One thing about zero-based budgeting, it came on the scene and everyone looked at it, but it really is not totally as good as they try to make it seem. But when you look at a budget and a strategic plan, you should have measurable outcomes. One of the things that I saw when I looked at the budget and looked at the outcomes, They were not measurable outcomes. So I would work with the board, the superintendent, and the community, as well as the teachers, to have measurable outcomes, because you can't expect the outcomes to be good unless everyone has an input into what's going on. And as far as equity is concerned, when you have a budget with measurable outcomes, it's blind as to whether or not everything will be treated fairly. So that's the good part about having a strategic plan as well as having a budget. Normally you have a budget that runs from 1 to 5 years, and then your first 2 years are the years that you work with. And those then can be changed such that you always have a rolling 5-year budget so that you know where you're going. And if something happens along the way, then you can make changes that are necessary such that everything comes in line. Budgeting is a funny critter because not everybody will be on board with the budget. But then that means that you have to put things into that budget such that people can touch, they can understand. So I would be there to work with whomever to make sure that the budget and the strategic plan worked hand in hand.
Thank you. Ms. Mosley-Jones, you have an additional minute, and you have an additional minute as well as if there's anything else you need to say.